to share something with you. That might put me in a very negative light, yeah.
Relationships are not my forte.
See if someone grabbed up my wife or something completely different ballgame.
I'll walk away from here, and this has been like a therapy session.
Andrew McCART, IFL TV, proudly sponsored by Everlast and with the man himself, Alex Arthur. Alex, it's been a while since I've got you on the channel. We keep missing each other every time I come through Edinburgh, but first and foremost, mate, how's things?
Aye, very well, mate. Just very, very busy with life in general. So, aye, but all good, mate, all good. Healthy and well.
Good, that's the main thing, mate. Well, listen, big news happened this yesterday. We referenced the Chris Eubank Jr. fight and the Conor Benn. Obviously, the fight got postponed. Conor Benn tested positive and an A sample had an adverse test result come back from VADA. Now, I know you stay up to date in the sport. You've got 3 young laddies that love the sport. You love the sport. You're involved in it every single day. So, yeah, just give me your initial reaction when you heard the news.
Well, it was quite shocking, to be honest. Like, you know, thinking back, you know, far enough, like, back to my era, I have to be really, really honest. It wasn't something that existed. You never ever heard the fighters taking any performance-enhancing drugs 20 years ago. You never heard of them going to see sports doctors or strength and conditioning coaches and people who would give them supplements and stuff. It just didn't happen. So, you know, I think I'm maybe a wee bit like old-fashioned still in that sense, or the last of the old-fashioned ones that are left. I just find it amazing that you know, they didn't question everything that they're being told to take. I mean, what's the point in visiting sports like doctors? Like, why are they visiting hormone replacement therapy doctors when they're under 35? You know, it can only be for one thing, and that's for performance-enhancing drugs. Of course, in boxing, it's not a sport that you play. You know, you're not running up and doing a basketball court. You're not trying to beat somebody on a 100-meter track. You're trying to essentially smash somebody's head in, or you know, or bust their ribs up. Well, I was. So, you know, if you think you've got the added advantages of strength and stamina and power, and I think psychologically as well, they would make you probably feel more invincible than what you were. It's all dangerous stuff. Going back to Eubank Collins, I'm not saying there's anything in terms of drugs were going on, but you know, Chris Eubank Sr. was totally freaked out at the fact that he thought Steve Collins was seeing a hypnotist and that he couldn't feel pain and that he was going to be some kind of unstoppable force. You know, so I do believe that it probably affects people mentally as well, you know.
That's a good reference there with the Steve Collins thing, because I can actually remember Senior being sort of like, he wasn't too happy with the fact that Steve Collins was seeing a psychiatrist. Was it a hypnotist, wasn't it, back in there? I remember that as well. Yeah, a hypnotist, yeah.
Aye. He believed he was hypnotising him to be impervious to pain and for him to have an everlasting energy tank that you won't get tired, and he made Chris Eubank believe that, you know. But what I will say is how well Chris Eubank Jr. has handled this whole thing. He's handled it unbelievably well. I mean, he's came out looking. He's not the most well-loved guy in the sport, but I think he's won a heck of a lot of fans here. Just with his attitude towards what's happened, he's never totally slated Benn. He's never, you know, shot down the fact that it might be a mistake. You know, he's been really, really good regarding the whole thing. And you can't forget this lad. You can actually see it in his face. I know a starving boxer, and he's clearly was quite dehydrated and hungry when he was doing his interview the other day. He must be going through a really rough time right now as well, you know, trying to make that weight class. That's a really tough weight for him to make. It must be. You know, he's a big lad. You know, 6 foot tall and broad shouldered, and you know, there's more body fat on a nail than I think than old Chris Eubank Jr. at the best of times. So, you know, for him to lose the extra few pounds must be really, really rough.
Yeah, I mean, he obviously was playing the mind game, saying he was 60%, and the videos and that. we were eating steaks and cakes
Yeah,
and
yeah.
whatnot. But you listen, you can take that with a pinch of salt because we all know the type of athlete that Chris Eubank Jr. is. But touching on Conor Benn, I mean, a young fighter, a young up and coming prospect. Is he a prospect? Maybe not, but it was a shining light for British boxing because when we need them young fighters, then pay-per-view, so to speak, fighters coming through. And Conor Benn was looking to be that guy. So at such a young age, what do you think is going through his mind right now?
Well, it's really hard to predict what's going through his mind because if he is guilty and he's aware of the fact that he's guilty, he'll be more annoyed that he got caught. You know, I would imagine he'll be really annoyed that he got caught because he's missing out, and of course he's missing out on a massive payday as well. Let's not forget that. You know, you don't fight, you don't get paid. So, you know, if he is guilty and he knows he's guilty and he has been doing something wrong, he'll be disappointed in himself for one, getting caught, for two, maybe trusting people to, you know, guide this sort of path that he's on. Right, take this at this time. It'll be out your system by that time. Don't worry about it. You know, he maybe thought he had it, you know, tied up, that he was going to be okay. On the other hand, it could be the case that, you know, he's been listening to someone telling him to take this vitamin at that time, take it at that time, take this, take that. It's going to make you feel better. And then, so the feeling, if that's the case, he'll be absolutely devastated. I mean, it'll be worth watching. His family members should be keeping an eye on him because if he never knew what was happening here and he's been given something that he didn't know of, and this is the result, it would be absolutely soul destroying. It would be devastating to know that you've done nothing wrong. You have done something wrong, but you never knew anything about it. That would be terrible.
I mean, yesterday there was rumblings about trying to keep this fight going ahead, even with this adverse finding in his A sample. But when you heard the news yesterday, going back to yesterday when you heard the news and there was talk about the fight still going ahead, were you one of them ones that would like to have the fight going ahead, or were you like, nah, it cannot go ahead? Categorically, no, it cannot go ahead because of the adverse finding.
Well, the strange thing was that we never got the other sample. And that's what I found. I mean, you know, I took hundreds and hundreds of drug tests in my boxing career, amateur and pro. And, you know, you pee in a container and then you separate the pee between two different containers, one with A and one with B, and you lock them. And then sometimes they take blood for you as well. I never had blood taken a great deal. But, you know, they two samples they go away at the same time. Why have both samples not been brought to light yet? You know, so, I mean, from my perspective, I was thinking, well, if the next sample's dirty as well, the fight should be off because it's, you know, like I said earlier, not to reiterate, but we're in a life-threatening sport here where people can get seriously hurt. Both their fathers and Chris Eubank Jr. know all too well of that, don't they? Michael Watson, Gerald McClellan, you know, and then poor Nick Blackwell against Eubank Jr. So, you know, they know the dangers better than most people in the sport. So had both them tests came back positive? Certainly no. The fact that only one came back and we still only know about one still leaves you a little bit sceptical. Oh, if the other one's clean, you know, maybe it could go ahead. The fact that Chris Eubank Jr. had no problem, no issue with the fight going ahead said a lot. Chris Eubank Jr. didn't really care. He didn't look bothered to me. You know, he didn't look like a fighter who was apprehensive about facing somebody who was on a performance-enhancing drug. He looked like he was just happy to get on with the fight.
That's the thing. He put a tweet out, I think a couple of hours ago, saying that he felt sorry for everyone that's lost out on hotels and travel.
Of course.
He also said that all this has done is postponed Conor's schooling for now. So it sounds like he still wants to fight Conor. Eddie Hearn and Callis Sowland have said that it's just a postponement. They're going to work on a new date. So it looks like this fight, maybe in the near future, will happen. So again, we will get to see this fight because I think with Sam Jones, I've done an interview with Sam Jones, and he's like, we're all hypocrites because even though if this fight did go ahead, even with everyone knowing about the tainted example, we'd still all buy the fight. We'd still all watch it.
Of course.
Do you know what I mean? So it looks like we're still going to get the fight ahead.
me and the boys are absolutely gutted. We were really looking forward to the whole card, and you've got to feel for the undercard fighters as well. You know, they've all worked so hard, and there's a massive stage for them as well to perform on, and you know, to be seen by the general public. I mean, you know, this is a huge event, you know. And sorry,
that's all right.
Like, sorry, it's my chicken ready. Hold on. You know, and you're looking at, you know, like fighters like Ellie Scotney and stuff that are, you know, they're still building their careers, and they're still at that juncture where they're trying to become superstars. That's all over for them now, which is a real shame. Such a shame on undercard fighters, and they don't get paid either.
That's the thing. It's a knock-on effect, isn't it? It's the fighters on the undercard. It's all them fans. I mean, I had a group of 8 mates that were travelling down to London today, and they had bought tickets for the fight on Saturday, so they were looking forward to it. So there is all that knock-on effect. So it's not just, but we clearly feel sorry for obviously Conor Benn and Chris Eubank Jr. But it's, like you said, it's the knock-on effect from the undercard fighters and all the fans that are travelling. Such
a shame on everyone. And of course, it's a black eye for the sport again, isn't it? It's not very good for boxing. It's things just haven't been going great for boxing lately. It's changing so much, and it's not changing for the better. Sadly, you know, I think I tweeted something about that earlier on, that I would go back to 20 or 30 years ago to boxing in that era in a minute. You know, I don't think it's moving forward in the best fashion. I think things need to change in the sport, amateur and pro, for the sport to keep progressing. And you know, it's one of the most popular sports in the world, but very soon it's not going to be that popular, I don't think.
Are you making reference to like maybe fights getting how the best always fought the best? You look at the 4 Kings and Leonard Hagler, Hearns, and Duran, and then you look at Muhammad Ali fighting Frazier 3 times, Sonny Liston, Foreman.
Of course.
I mean, everyone back in the day fought everyone, no matter what. There seemed to be no obstacles, and then you mentioned the drug sort of thing is coming to light more after your career. So, I mean, that being said, then Alex, where do you sit on terms of punishment if a fighter's been caught? I mean, do you think the punishment is harsh enough, or do you think if you've been caught, boom, straight down the middle, lifetime ban?
I mean, I really do think. I mean, there's a number of different drugs out there, isn't there, that you can use for different purposes. You know, I mean, they made a massive deal about Canelo getting caught with trace elements of clenbuterol in his system, that the levels that they found in his system are virtually useless. You know, I've got a couple of good sports doctor pals as well who fill you in about this stuff. Virtually useless, and people call him they put signs of inject needles on his tweets, and like he's some kind of big drug cheat, when the possibility of having eaten meat with the amount of clenbuterol that was in that meat is highly likely in the areas in Mexico. You know, and they're all saying that he's taking some kind of killer steroid that's making him some kind of freak fighter. Absolute nonsense. You know, it's basically an asthmatic drug, and it was a tiny amount of it, and it would possibly actually be worse for your performance than better. So, I mean, it depends what you're taking and what these fighters are taking. I mean, you got the guy like that big heavyweight fellow from the States who's just taking everything. He's been caught with everything. That fellow. I mean, they guys like that should just be banned. They should just be banned for life. You know, but if you're finding, you know, in a lighter weight fighter's drug test sample, you know, I remember they took caffeine off the banned list, because back in the day, 20 years ago, we would use loads of caffeine to help us get energy, because we couldn't eat a lot of food because we were trying to cut weight, and it helped you sweat. And they took it off the ban list, and you had to watch how much like coffee you had, you know. So I mean, when you think about performance enhancing drugs and what they can do, you really need to be educated by a sports doctor or a sports scientist to understand it really well. But you know that there's different things that do different things to other fighters. I didn't believe anything in the world can make you a better boxer. If you're a rubbish boxer, and you give this boxer all the best drugs in the world, it's not going to make him good. It's not going to make him a better boxer. I believe it helps your recovery. It makes you a wee bit stronger, a wee bit faster, whatever. But it can't make you a better boxer. But in terms of the bans, I think that it should be based on what they've been doing, how they've been doing it, why they've been doing it. I think that should be taken into account.
Well, that's what I mean. It's one you mentioned there, the sports scientists and stuff like that. Like, I'm not clued up on it all as well. I mean, I've been trying to read up on what's it called? Chloromethine, I think it's called. Probably butchered that word that has been caught in the system. It's a fertility drug. So I've been trying to do a little bit of research on it and find out what's what, because like you say, I'm not clued up on this myself. Like, I mean, when Canelo got busted with clenbuterol, I had to Google clen to find out what the heck that was. And you know what I mean? So I'm not clued up in all this stuff myself. So it's hard for me to say what's what, like you said, but I still think that it's a sticky situation. It's a difficult situation in terms of like, because I have seen the list of all the banned substances, and it's a big ass list.
There's so much.
And you know yourself, you've been in the fitness game. You could something little can be in a protein shake, something can be in an energy drink. So it's difficult to watch, but again, who am I?
You've got to make sure everything's looked at and tested. And you used to get labels on some of the supplements that you would buy saying that it's been tested in labs and there's nothing derogatory can be found in this. You know, there's no banned substances in anything that we use in our factories and stuff. So that used to be what we would look for, just to make sure that, you know, you weren't taking a protein shake, because there's a few guys back in the day that were taking supplements to help them lose weight that you could buy on the shelf, but they were actually banned, but you could buy them on the shelf in Boots. Mm-hmm. You know, I remember the skier took a Vicks inhaler.
The Scottish skier,
the Scottish skier, and they took his Olympic medal off him, and he had a blocked nose, and he took an inhaler, and they took his Olympic medal off him because it had something in it. So you need to make sure that you check everything. And I don't know if that's solely the fighter's responsibility. You've got enough on your plate, you know, without thinking about that. But that's why having a good team around you, I guess, helps a lot as well, doesn't it?
Definitely, Alex. Listen, I'll get one final question here, because I know you just said your chicken's ready. I follow you on Instagram.
The boys are all shouting on me.
Hungry lions sitting in the living room waiting for their food. Just one final one. Like, obviously, I didn't get a chance to speak to you about your thoughts on the fight. Obviously, if it did go ahead, but what obviously Conor Benn and Chris Eubank. What was your initial thoughts with the fight and your prediction on it? What do you think was going to happen?
Well, I like to bet on the box, and I like to brag about my victories week in, week out. I did look at it in a couple of different sort of dimensions. What could happen potentially? What the fighters' approaches would be. I was really keen to see Chris Eubank at the weigh-in. A weigh-in can tell you an awful lot about a boxer, how he might recover. I was thinking about his age, his miles on the clock. They're no green. He never had a long, extensive amateur career. He's never took a lot of beatings, but he's got a lot more experience in Conor Benn. And I thought we would have seen a good start for Conor Benn, very energetic. Chris Eubank, quite calm, no doing a lot at the start. But I think down the stretch, the size, the work rate, the durability of Chris Eubank Jr. Chris Eubank Jr. can take a great shot, phenomenally fit, can bang a bit as well, and he's got a great engine. So I thought down the stretch, I thought Conor Benn would be lucky, or will be lucky, to hear the final bell. I think he possibly might hear the final bell, but I think it will still be a Chris Eubank win.
Alex, listen, absolutely enjoy speaking to you as always. You're a true boxing man, so I always love getting a good chat with you. I hate these Zoom calls, but I live through the West now. I can't just pop.
Especially with a broken phone.
I know, with a broken phone. I know. I can't just pop into the gym like that anymore. Do you know what I mean? So
I can't even see it. I've been looking at an apple the whole time I've been talking about it.
Well, that's the shape of my head anyway, a big apple. Listen, Alex, go and feed them boys, because I know they'll be starving.
I will do, my man.
As always, mate. I'll speak to you soon, brother. Next
no
time
problem. Good luck, bro.
I'll pop up
see
to
you
the gym.
soon.
See you soon, Alex.
Bye, guys.
Bye, mate.
I'm going to share something with you that might put me in a very negative light, yeah.
Relationships are not my forte.
See if someone grabbed up my wife or something, completely different ballgame.
I'll walk away from it, and this has been like a therapy session.